My name is Emma Collins. I'm 42 years old, and for the longest time I believed the deepest wounds came from the people who promised to love you forever. I was wrong. The deepest wounds come from the people who share your blood. 3 years ago I lost my husband. Not to death. To my sister. Even now, writing those words feels unreal. Because sisters aren't supposed to look you in the eyes at your wedding, hold your bouquet while you cry happy tears, and then quietly destroy everything you built. But Chloe Collins was always good at taking what belonged to someone else and making it look like she deserved it more. Ryan Walker and I had been married for 14 years. We lived in a quiet suburb outside Chicago. We had a home we'd renovated together, traditions that felt permanent, and the kind of marriage people called solid. I believed that too. Maybe that's why betrayal hit me so hard. I never suspected Chloe. When she called saying she needed a place to stay after another breakup, I opened my door without hesitation. She was my younger sister. Family. That's what family does, right? For 6 months she lived in our guest room. For 6 months she laughed with us at dinner. For 6 months she hugged me goodnight. And for 6 months she was sleeping with my husband. I didn't find out because they confessed. I found out because I came home early from work with takeout from Ryan's favorite restaurant. I remember balancing the bags in my hands while climbing the stairs. I remember smiling because I thought surprising him would make his terrible week better. Then I heard Chloe laughing. Not a normal laugh. A soft one. An intimate one. The kind you don't forget. I opened our bedroom door. And my entire life ended in a single heartbeat. Ryan stood there frozen. Chloe didn't even look ashamed. She looked annoyed. Like I was interrupting something. I still remember the first words she said. Emma, this isn't what it looks like. But it was exactly what it looked like. The divorce destroyed me. The affair destroyed my relationship with my parents. Because they didn't choose sides. Sometimes not choosing a side is choosing one. I left. Ryan eventually married Chloe. My parents kept inviting them to holidays. And I stopped going. 3 years passed. 3 years of therapy. 3 years of rebuilding. 3 years of learning how to breathe again. Then my mother called. Please come home for your father's 70th birthday, she begged. It's time this family healed. I should have said no. Instead I drove back. And the moment I walked through that front door, Chloe smiled at me, looked me dead in the eyes and laughed. Wow, Emma, she said. You're still living in the past? That was the moment I realized something. She thought she won. She had no idea what I knew. Chloe's words echoed in my head long after the room fell silent. You're still living in the past? Everyone laughed awkwardly, pretending it was just another one of Chloe's sarcastic jokes. My mother quickly changed the subject. My father focused on cutting his birthday cake, and Ryan wrapped an arm around Chloe's waist like the last 3 years had erased everything they'd done. I smiled. Not because I forgave them, because for the first time in years I realized I wasn't the broken woman they remembered. Therapy had taught me something invaluable. The people who hurt you the most often expect you to stay frozen in the moment they destroyed you. They count on your pain becoming your identity. Seeing me calm confused Chloe far more than tears ever could. I spent the evening quietly observing. Ryan barely spoke unless someone asked him a direct question. Every time Chloe bragged about their perfect life, he forced a smile that disappeared the second she looked away. Their expensive clothes, luxury SUV, and constant talk about vacations felt strangely rehearsed. Almost desperate. Then something unexpected happened. While everyone was outside taking family photos, Ryan slipped into the kitchen. He thought he was alone. A second later his phone rang. I told you I'll have the money by Friday, he whispered. Just stop calling my wife. My heart skipped. Money. He ended the call the moment he noticed me standing in the doorway. For a split second I saw genuine fear in his eyes. Emma. You heard that? I shrugged. Not my business anymore. He looked relieved. It should have ended there. But curiosity has a way of pulling you toward the truth. Later that night, Natalie Reed called to check on me. She'd been my closest friend through the divorce and could hear something in my voice. You sound different, she said. I think they're hiding something. She didn't laugh. Instead, she reminded me of Marcus Hayes, the private investigator who had uncovered Ryan's affair years earlier. He's still the best, Natalie said. If your instincts are telling you something, don't ignore them. I barely slept. Not because Chloe had mocked me, because I couldn't stop thinking about Ryan's terrified expression. The next morning before driving back to Chicago, I called Marcus. I need to know if my ex-husband's life is really as perfect as my sister wants everyone to believe. He was quiet for a moment. Then he said something that made the hairs on the back of my neck stand up. Emma, I've actually been looking into Ryan Walker for another client. I tightened my grip on the steering wheel. And what I found, he paused, is much bigger than an affair. Marcus refused to tell me anything over the phone. Meet me in my office, he said. Bring an open mind. By the time I sat across from him 2 days later, a thick folder was already waiting on the desk. Marcus slid it toward me without saying a word. Inside were property records, court filings, bank statements, and photographs. First, none of it made sense. Then he connected the pieces. Ryan hadn't become successful. He had become reckless. The luxury vacations, designer clothes, and oversized house Chloe loved showing off on social media weren't signs of wealth. They were financed with loans, maxed out credit cards, and unpaid taxes. Worse, Ryan had started a construction business that was drowning in debt after taking on projects he couldn't afford to finish. But that's not why another client hired me, Marcus said. He handed me one final document. It was a fraud complaint. Ryan was being investigated for moving money between business accounts and personal accounts to hide losses from investors. Nothing had been proven yet, but the evidence was growing. Then Marcus looked me straight in the eyes. Emma, your sister signed several financial documents as a co-owner. I stared at Chloe's signature. Again and again. She hadn't just stolen my husband. She had tied her future to every risky decision Ryan made. I expected to feel happy. Instead, I felt sad. Not for Chloe. For the years I wasted believing she had taken a better life from me. The truth was she'd taken a ticking time bomb. A week later, my mother called. Can you come over Sunday? Chloe wants to announce something. Against my better judgment, I went. The moment I walked in, Chloe held up a sparkling diamond bracelet. Ryan surprised me, she said proudly. Some people move on. Others stay bitter. She looked directly at me. The room went quiet. I simply smiled. It's beautiful, I said. I hope he paid for it. Her smile faded for just a second. Ryan nearly dropped his drink. He knew exactly what I meant. Neither of them realized I already knew about the investigations, the debts, and the lies holding their perfect life together. I wasn't going to expose them. I didn't need to. Sometimes the strongest revenge isn't pulling the trigger. It's stepping aside when the people who betrayed you are already walking toward the edge, and letting the truth arrive on its own. A few days later, Olivia Grant, the attorney who had handled my divorce, called with unexpected news. Emma, she said carefully, someone from the U.S. Attorney's Office wants to speak with you. My pulse quickened. What could they possibly want from me? Her next sentence changed everything. They believe you may be the key witness in a case against Ryan Walker. When I met with the federal investigators, I expected hours of questions about my marriage. Instead, they wanted something much simpler. The timeline. They already had financial records, emails, and statements from former employees. What they needed was proof of when Ryan's behavior changed, and who had access to certain accounts during our marriage. I answered every question truthfully. Nothing more. Nothing less. Months passed before the case became public. Ryan's construction company collapsed almost overnight. Investors filed lawsuits. The fraud investigation led to criminal charges, and the evidence was overwhelming. Chloe's signature appeared on document after document. While investigators concluded Ryan had orchestrated the scheme, Chloe wasn't the innocent bystander she'd always claimed to be. She had signed paperwork she never bothered to understand because she trusted the man she stole from me. Then came the phone call I'd waited 3 years to receive. It wasn't from Ryan. It was from Chloe. She was crying. Emma, can you help us? Please talk to your lawyer. Maybe you can explain that I'm your sister. For a long moment I said nothing. Then I remembered the day she looked me in the eyes and laughed. Still living in the past? I finally answered. No, Chloe. I'm living in the future. The past is where you chose to stay. I ended the call. Not out of anger. Out of peace. A month later, my parents came to my home. For the first time since my divorce, my father looked me in the eyes and said, "We were so afraid of losing our family that we ended up losing you instead. I'm sorry." Those words healed something I thought was gone forever. Forgiveness didn't erase what happened. It simply meant I refused to carry their choices any longer. A year later, I ran into Noah Bennett at a charity fundraiser. He knew my story because it had made local news, but he never treated me like a victim. He saw the woman I'd become instead of the one who had been betrayed. Today we're building a quiet life together. One based on honesty instead of appearances. Sometimes people ask if I regret losing Ryan. I smile every single time. I didn't lose my husband. My sister took him. And in doing so, she unknowingly gave me the greatest gift of my life. She took the man who would eventually destroy everything he touched, and left me with the chance to rebuild a life no one could ever steal again. That's the difference between revenge and justice. Revenge made them lose everything they thought they owned. Justice gave me back everything that truly mattered.